In this episode of Hidden Chronicles, we continue our deep dive into the femininity of the heavens and the earth. We are tracing the profound history of women in language.
Decoding key terms from our prehistoric reality reshapes the timeline of human organization. Evidence points to ancient matriarchal societies that fought a long struggle for survival as patriarchal systems began to emerge and expand. This patriarchal system gradually took root over a period of up to 1,000 years. It was a slow displacement of the ancient culture, where old matriarchal structures were systematically replaced by new masculine hierarchies. This millennium-long transition reached its peak with the rise of Judaism. The emergence of the Jewish religion serves as the most prominent evidence of this shift, marking the point where the patriarchal system finally achieved absolute dominance in the region. Because power structures had shifted so completely toward the masculine, future religious texts and their interpretations would be filtered through this new, singular perspective. Following the emergence of Islam, a new class of wealthy state officials and ministers began to live in luxury. As their personal fortunes grew, so did their desire for domestic arrangements that suited their status. These elites sought a way to marry young girls without facing societal backlash. They required a religious justification to transform their personal desires into a legally and morally accepted practice. To provide this justification, the wealthy relied on the sultan's jurists, court scholars ordered to interpret the verses according to the ruler's desires. These jurists produced an interpretation suggesting a man could raise an orphaned girl as her paternal figure, only to marry her later. This effectively turned a position of trust into a mechanism for exploitation. We are examining whether the original linguistic roots of the Quranic text support this traditional exegesis regarding polygamy, or if the interpretation was tailored to serve these specific masculine perspectives. Religions are living traditions that can be reproduced to serve personal, economic, or political interests. In this case, the Sultan's jurists transformed a protective social framework into a tool for the wealthy elite. The investigation begins with the word for orphans. In the original Arabic text, the Quran uses the term al-yatama. This is a broad, gender-neutral plural that encompasses all fatherless children, regardless of sex. Traditional interpreters shifted the focus of this text. They injected the feminine gender into the term, narrowing its scope to refer specifically to young girls, or yatimat. This specific term, yatimat, does not exist in the original Arabic of this verse.
وَإِن خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى فَانكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَىٰ وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ فَإِن خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدَةً أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ ذَلِكَ أَدْنَىٰ أَلَّا تَعُولُوا.
The feminine gender was added later by commentators to create the religious justification for marrying minors. Surah Al-Nisa 4:2 establishes the true context, strictly forbidding men from consuming the wealth of orphans or exchanging their good possessions for bad ones. It frames the care of orphans as a matter of financial integrity. By isolating the verse and adding fabricated gender constraints, the jurists enabled the elite to access the assets and persons of orphans under the guise of religious law. A second manipulation is found in the verb tayulu. Traditional interpreters translated this as to commit injustice, but this choice is linguistically inconsistent with the root of the word. When we strip away the present tense prefix and the masculine plural suffix, we uncover the word's actual foundation. We are left with the triliteral root a-well-u. In its past tense form, Allah, In historical Arabic, this root means to provide for or to support a family. The common Arabic word for family, aila, comes from this same root. It literally refers to a group of people who are provided for by a breadwinner. The literal translation of the verse's conclusion is, "That is more likely to prevent you from having too many dependents to support, or prevent you from being the breadwinner for more people than you can afford." This economic safeguard ensures that a man does not take on a larger family than his resources allow, which completely invalidates the traditional injustice translation. Examining the entirety of Surah Al-Nisa 4:3 with these corrected terms changes our understanding of the permission for polygamy. The traditional translation on the left has been corrupted, reading as a direct instruction to marry orphan girls. The morphological reality on the right tells a different story. The phrases "with orphan girls" and "by marrying them" are additions that do not exist in the Arabic text. Jurists place these words in brackets to force a meaning into the white space between the original words. The Quran is innocent of the practice of child marriage. The exploitation was created by men who added words to the translation that the Prophet never spoke. The actual socio-demographic reality of 7th century Arabia was defined by high male mortality. Wars and hunting frequently left families without their primary providers. This led to a drastic increase in widowed households and fatherless children. Men took social responsibility to aid these families, but these visits created two critical risks. A man might seize the deceased's wealth, or frequent visits could lead to extramarital relations. The Quranic verses intervened as a legal framework to block these specific risks, prioritizing financial and moral integrity over informal arrangements. The text instructs men to marry the mother of the orphans. This framework turned the man into a formal father figure for the existing children. This arrangement was strictly conditional. It required the man to treat the orphans justly and ensure he did not become overburdened with more dependents than he could financially support. In this context, polygamy was a conditional socio-economic safety net. Its primary purpose was to protect the wealth and stability of fatherless children. The most infamous fabrication by the Sultan's jurists is the claim that Prophet Muhammad married Aisha when she was only 9 years old. Historical records show Aisha was first betrothed to a man named Jubair ibn Mut'im long before her marriage to the Prophet. Betrothal in Arab tribal custom was an intent to start a family. This required a mature, rational woman capable of bearing children, a practice that excluded children and was unknown among the tribes for that purpose. The timeline confirms her maturity. After the initial engagement to Jubair was dissolved, 3 years passed before she migrated to Medina to marry Muhammad. If she was a mature woman at her first betrothal, the years spent during that engagement, plus the 3-year gap following its dissolution, place her age at no less than 25 years old upon reaching Medina. The child bride narrative was a complete forgery. It was designed retroactively to serve the wealthy elite who wanted religious cover for their own practices. Morphological rigor and historical demographics expose the patriarchal manipulation of the text. The original reality of the scripture was a legal framework built on the protection of the vulnerable and the financial capacity of the household.